See, I don't know if you can buy these anymore. I'm pretty sure they're no longer available. It'd be nice to get some made, because that's half the reason why people put the China antennas on. But you can see the play. But what happens when the worm gear spins, it binds up there and then it doesn't turn. A lot of times these gears will break straight in half, so this unit can't be used. I always keep an eye out for these antenna units at the junkyards. I'll pull them because they're only like $5 or $10 usually. You get them for, and there's a lot of good parts in between here because you can usually mix and match components and get you a working antenna for a while. Let's go to a working one that I found. So you can see the antenna mast. This is nice and circular. Wasn't chewed up. You can tell if this is getting chewed up because there'll be a lot of plastic residue in here. So this one's got a little bit of rust, but it's a lot better. I tested the motor. The motor works good. A little bit different design. So you can see here, this gear is starting to crack. But it's still going to work. So the key is to have everything lubricated real nicely so there's minimal load on this piece here. Because if this can spin freely, you know, the whole mechanism that pulls the cable, and including the mast itself, this thing will be subject to very little, if any, load. But once it starts binding up, this motor is pretty heavy duty, and being on this type of reduction here, this gear is susceptible to a lot of torque. So what I'm going to do to kind of ensure this thing lasts a little longer, I'll take some plastic weld and melt at the ends of the crack each hole, kind of like drilling a hole in a piece of metal, kind of stop the crack, smooth it, fill it, and then what I've started doing is, it's hard to say if it actually helps or not, but I think it does. So this piece, when the slipper clutch is active, you can see these are the engagement points on the teeth there, but this just kind of slips on the top. So that's a lot of torque you can see here, as opposed to you know, at these stress points. So I put epoxy in each 4 of these pockets here, and put this on, let it cure all the way. So now essentially this metal piece is one unitized piece with the gear. So when there's force on the gear, it's applying directly to the shim itself instead of, you know, focusing the load on either side of the gear at one point. I think that's another reason why these fail prematurely. But basically, as long as you lube it up and make sure the gear's good, make sure your contacts aren't pitted on the switchboard. It's like I was saying earlier, if the motor was subject to a lot of load for a long time, check these contacts. Sometimes if they're really pitted, you can take some 600 grit sandpaper or emery cloth, whatever you want, and polish the contacts up a little bit, put some dielectric grease on, and you'll be good to go. Biggest thing with these is just clean them. These are really good antennas, so I hate to put some shitty antenna on here because yeah, this, whatever they made these masts out of, you can get radio stations that I normally, in most newer cars, I never even was able to get in town. Yeah, if you have any questions, let me know.